Well, good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, or good night, depending on what part of the world you're tuning into our live Facebook feed from. My name is Gideon Orbach. I practice chiropractic here at the World of Wellness. I've been with this group I recently celebrated my 17-year anniversary. I was with this group on Carson Street in the South Side when we were the Pain Release Clinic, or the Pain Release Center. We moved to this building here in the Green Tree section of Pittsburgh. We're conveniently located to Highway 376. We're not that far off from 279, not that far off from 79, which enables patients from all over the region to come and see us, which they do. We moved here in October of 2008. We were under the direction of Dr. James Weiner until his passing in December of 2017, and now we're the World of Wellness. We're the same group of core people with a lot of new additions along the way, and the same principles and the same ideas, and the same attention to detail, and the same level of patient care, and even more high-quality nutritional supplements than ever before. And I'm very proud to have been here long enough to have seen so much of it. Anyway, what I do here is I practice chiropractic. I'm a DC. I also hold a PSP certification, a primary spinal practitioner, which was a program that I did at the University of Pittsburgh. And my clinical practice is geared towards how do we improve communication between the brain and the body. And how do we use the body as a tool in order to stimulate the brain? Everything that I'm doing is looking towards creating those more intact communications, establishing better breathing patterns, helping people establish better posture, have better flexibility, and move more athletically through space. And all that is tied towards good brain function. So we're all gathered here at the Wellness Center to take advantage of deep discounts on the nutritional supplements. We're here to have high-end chiropractic care. We're here for the workshops. Ultimately, what drew us all in was we want to find strategies to be healthier, which leads to the first of two questions that I'd like to use this workshop time to ask and answer. One, what does it mean to be healthy? Two, why would I want to be a chiropractic patient? So let's talk about that healthiness. I have a good-sized crowd live and in person, and I know that a great number of people are tuning in from as far away as Bangkok. What does it mean to be healthy? Does anybody have a working definition of the word health? You didn't know this was interactive. All right, so it's my turn to make a speech, but it's not a speech, it's a workshop. If you have questions, comments, moral outrages, if you'd like to volunteer some information, if you'd like to get yourself involved, you're welcome to. I'd appreciate it very much if you raised your hand, but you're welcome to participate. For those of the people who are tuning in remotely, if you want to be active in the comments section, our MVP is IT Savant Phil over here to my left. I'll check in with him, he'll check in with me if there's something to say, if somebody in Cyberland is participating. But my question is for everybody, but mostly I see a hand. Yes?
I would say not merely the absence of disease, but a state of well-being.
I love it. Not just the absence of disease, but a state of well-being. All right, pretty good definition of the word of health, even better when you consider that I sprung this on you. It's the gotcha technique. Anybody else? All right. Well, here's my answer. It's not gotcha to me because I've been at it for a while. Being healthy, the word health to me means having the ability to recognize, interact with, adapt to, and even overcome your environment, both internally and externally. So our internal environment, what is that? That's how is our brain regulating each and individual organ system of our body? How are each individual cell talking to the brain through the nervous system? How is our digestion occurring? Is our heart beating in a regular cadence? Circulation, is it intact or is it being blocked by some sort of obstruction in the arterial or venous meshwork? Is our liver purging out toxins? Is our kidneys purging out toxins? That's our internal environment. So let me pose you this case scenario. I know it's the end of the season, but let's all go over to the roller coaster park at Kennywood. Some of us are going to dine on carnival food. Some of us would rather not eat at all than eat carnival food. For those of us that picked the carnival food option and had a delicious smelling, probably very tasty, mouth-watering hot dog, washed it down with a plate of nachos that has cheese-like substance made of plastic, and a Coca-Cola. A yummy Coca-Cola with all those little fizz bubbles exploding in your face as you sip it down. I made it sound pretty appealing, didn't I? Carnival food. Some of us are going to decide, you know what, forget it. I'll eat when I get home. It'll be fine. I don't eat that stuff. I don't eat that food-like substance. The group of us go back onto the roller coasters, and amongst the people who ate the carnival food, somebody throws up. They have an exercise in regurgitation. Let me ask you this. Do you think they got sick, or do you think that's a sign of good health? I would suggest to you that that is your internal system and your internal chemistry and your brain in constant communication with each other, making the command decision saying, no, we don't want this food-like substance living inside of us for any longer than necessary. Let's get rid of it. We have recognized, our internal environment has recognized intruders, adapted to them, and said, we're going to overcome this mess, and gotten rid of it. For the same people who eat the same carnival food and they're able to go on all of the rides and they are shaken and stirred, and yet they don't have that exercise and regurgitation, and their bodies decide to hold on to those metabolic toxins and that debris, that very tasty, delicious debris, not that I would know. And that food-like substance has the ability to just remain in their bodies for a period of time, disseminating and making its way out to each individual cell. Is that a sign of good health? Well, I didn't throw up on the roller coaster, so I must be pretty healthy. I must have a cast iron stomach. I'm going to suggest to you that those are the people who are failing to adapt. So far, so good? Questions, comments, moral outrages? Cyberland, anybody, anything? We're good, okay. What is our external environment? Well, to me, that's all of you guys. You guys are my environment. You're clearly outside of my body, and you're here, and you're present, and I don't know all of you, but I recognize some of you, and I'm adapting to the group around me, and I'm comfortable standing up here, hosting a workshop that so far one of you has decided to participate in, which I'm grateful. I think I'm doing pretty good with my external environment. On the ride over to work the other day, somebody was going the wrong way down a one-way street, and it wasn't me. I was going the right way. And I see this car coming towards me, and I'm a little bit like, I have that moment of disbelief, like, let me second guess myself for a second. I saw the stop signs facing me, not them. All the cars are parked facing my direction. That person is wrong. But I'm going to spike my brakes and pull over to the side a little bit so that we can pass each other without scraping each other. I'm right, you're wrong, but we avoided what's known as a collision, right? So that's adapting to your external environment, okay? So everybody's good with being healthy is possessing the ability to recognize, interact with, adapt to, and even overcome both your internal and external environment. We're all good so far? Yeah? Pretty good? Good, good. So let's talk about eating healthy for a second, and let's talk about the nutritional supplementation that we have here at the World of Wellness. We can talk for a moment about the lunch fare over to way to my right. We like to bring in people who serve healthy food that fits in with the meal plan that we would advocate or teach here at the Wellness Center, and give them a chance to show off what they do to our clientele. And you know, they help us make sure that nobody goes home hungry. We help them advertise and build their business a little bit, and we're aligned with people who are doing healthy nutritional things. The supplement room, our store is bigger by volume than any GNC that I've ever been into. All the brands that we carry are verified independent labs, check up on the labels to make sure that the content of the product and the label are a match, and that we're above board selling pure substrates, pure metabolites, that there's no debris, there are no plastics, there are no toxins inside of the supplements that we sell, just the highest of all quality stuff. And you can walk up and down the shelves and look at the products that we carry, and you can pick the bottles up off the shelves and look at the labels and see what ingredients are in our supplements. And you see the same stuff coming up over and over again. Our supplement room and our products are focused on healthy living. We talked about what it means to be healthy. We support all the organ systems. We support weight loss. We support neurological health. There's supplements that will help with our mood or our affect or our mental health. We have supplements that promote good hygiene and cleanliness. You'll find it all in our shop. Our shop is second to none. I'm proud to endorse what we've got here. And this week, we've been offering good discounts, and I'm sure that a number of the other speakers yesterday and today have already talked quite a bit about nutrition. So I want to state that I am a neuromusculoskeletal chiropractor. I deal with people's aches and pains and imbalances. I'm a primary spinal practitioner. I use the tools from that program to help out with an examination and to get a better understanding of what patients exactly have going on that I can help them with. But I don't ever want to deny the incredible importance, the profound significance of having good nutrition and a good nutritional program. And I like to be able to touch on that without devoting the whole workshop to it. So far, so good. Questions at all? Can I keep going? Cyberland's good. Excellent. So the first question we have to ask and answer is, what is health? And the second question on the ask and answer list is, why would I want to be a chiropractic patient? Well, I wish I had the authority to speak on behalf of the entire profession, but I don't. So I speak on behalf of myself and my colleague, Dr. Phil Ross. Dr. Ross and I speak with each other daily about what are you doing with a certain patient, what conditions are coming up that you see more and more of, what are you seeing less of, how do you approach this, how do you approach that. We have check-in meetings every day that we work together, and he knows what I'm saying, and I know what he's saying, and I conferred with him before I got up here to start my workshop. I speak on his behalf as well. Why would you want to be a chiropractic patient? It's hard. It's hard to be a patient. You actually have to show up. You can call us, and you can order any nutritional supplement that we carry in our store. Maybe we don't carry it, and we can special order it for you. You can go and you can see your primary care physician or your neurologist or your eniologist, and they'll write you a prescription for something that you go to a drugstore, you pick it up, you take it home, you use it. It's convenient. To be a chiropractic patient, you got to show up. And sometimes that means commuting a long way. I have patients who drive, even without traffic, over an hour in each direction to come and see me. I have patients across state lines that come to see me, as does Dr. Ross. Sometimes traffic piles up, and we have people who come from 10 miles away, and it takes them an hour and a half to get here, and yet they do it. It's hard. You have to be committed to being a chiropractic patient. Once you get here, I'm probably going to put a thumb, maybe even an elbow, in a very tender body spot. I'm going to stretch you in a direction that your body hasn't moved in who knows how long, and you're going to feel a little bit ratchety. I might push into an open joint space to the point where it may even make a clicking or a popping noise, and what was that? It's hard to be a chiropractic patient, and yet we have a fairly full calendar and a fairly full schedule. Why do these people make this commitment? Well, first of all, Dr. Ross and I are both extremely well trained. I went to Cleveland Chiropractic College in Kansas City, Missouri. He went to Logan College, which is in St. Louis. I mean, I don't make it sound like we were buddies in school. I mean, we're 20 years apart, but we have so many overlapping principles, and we know so many have trained under some of the same people. So when I talk about going to Cleveland College versus going to Logan College, you're probably not gaining or losing very much either way. And because those two schools are so geographically close to each other, they influence one another. When I was in school and earlier in my career, I had I think back about the people who mentored me and the people who I trained under. And let's face it, chiropractors aren't celebrities. We will not be appearing on postage stamps. But if there was such thing as a chiropractic celebrity, I think about the people who I trained under, that's them. A good chunk of what I do clinically comes from the Motion Palpation Institute. That's an organization that teaches clinical technique, biomechanics, and nutrition, and now rehab as well. The owner of that group is Dr. Mark King out of Cincinnati. The head nutritionist is a doctor named David Seaman. And the reason why Dr. Seaman is so relevant to my conversation is because when I interviewed with Dr. Weiner for the first time in the summer of 2007, he was looking for an associate. I had just left a job. I had a number of offers. I was considering opening up my own clinic. He did not need me, and I did not need him. So we were two professional colleagues just having a conversation, trying to figure out, will our professional existences be better with each other or without each other? And if you go to a job interview, I highly recommend that you act like you don't need me, I don't need you. And the interviewer should be feeling like I don't need you and you don't need me, because we're just two people having a conversation determining whether or not this is going to be a good working relationship. No desperation, no neediness. And Dr. Weiner and I are going back and forth about our attitudes and our principles when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to patient care, and And so Dr. Weiner is like, well, you sound like you know what you're talking about. Who trained you? And I said, well, I've done all my nutrition work with David Seaman. And Dr. Weiner smiled and said, I know him, I know David, and okay. So that's the Motion Palpation Institute. I did neurology under the direction of Ted Carrick and Ken Erickson. Ted Carrick is, in 2009, I believe it was, Sidney Crosby was at the beginning of his concussion ordeal, and he was not making much of a recovery, or he wasn't recovering quick enough. And I'm not really certain if it was Crosby himself or if it was his family or whomever. They brought in a chiropractic consultant who said that this is a concussion, but there are other things going on that are spinal problems. And that person was Ted Carrick. So I wouldn't call him my direct mentor, but I certainly did quite a bit of training underneath him. One of his top guys, Ken Erickson, he's a very good friend and mentor of mine, and Ken travels literally all over the world, teaching neurology to chiropractors and physical therapists, and in Europe to medical doctors. There's a different distinction of profession in Europe where manual medicine, what we do here known as chiropractic, is a branch of medicine in Europe, and he teaches that crowd. And I remember closing in on 30 years ago, going to these neurology classes, and one of my classmates, somebody who I was like, hey, did you get that? Let me see your notes from last week. Good, okay, here are my notes from, was a doctor named William Huber. Guess who Dr. Ross's neurology instructor was at Logan College 25 years later? If you said Dr. Huber. So it all comes kind of full circle, and I had one of those, I know I'm getting old moments when. And that's how Dr. Ross and I are so far apart in age and stage of our careers, and yet we do things so similarly and look at patient care and what's your goal with this patient and how are you going to get there in such a similar manner. So we're very well trained. And personally, I took the training a little further and way into 20 years into my doing all of this. I did the primary spinal practitioner program at certification at Pitt, which was really, really kind of exciting because Pitt just recently announced that they're opening up a chiropractic school, and Pitt has become a very pro-chiropractic university. They're the first research-based university to house a chiropractic program, and the PSP program was the first program that was integrated between physical therapy and chiropractic in the whole country. So that was really a cool thing, and I know that my colleague Dr. Ross has additional training as a certified chiropractic sports physician. He has additional training through the Titleist Academy to be a certified golf pro. So we here did not just like, oh, I graduated school, let me do the bare minimum requirement for continuing ed, and that'll be fine, that'll be enough. We've really gone out of our way to do extra certifications and extra meaningful programs and bring home some knowledge and some skills and some techniques that can benefit our patients rather than just, well, let me make sure that I finish my continuing ed hours. I can do most of them online this year. I'm not going to get very much out of it, but I can document that I finished it. So if you're thinking about, well, why would I want to be a chiropractic patient in that place? Let me assure you that Dr. Ross and I are on par as far as being some of the best trained chiropractors in the country. Now, I'm not saying we're the best. I'm saying we're certainly on par between the two of us. There's no group that has more meaningful certifications, more meaningful extra continuing education. Now, a very quick shameless plug for the Pro Reds. You can probably hear in my voice that I've been doing a lot of talking, and I'm starting to have like that voice fatigue and that parched throat. Nothing beats good water. We want to be well hydrated, and if you can spike your water with something like the Pro Reds or the Lean Greens or some sort of antioxidant, Nutritional Frontiers puts out wonderful antioxidant powders to go in your water, all the better. Questions, comments, moral outrages? All right, good. So we roll on. So we talk about all of this additional training. Why would I want to come here? Okay, these guys actually know something. All right, cool. They went to a lot of classes. They got some fancy initials. They interacted with some leaders in the field. Why would I want to go there? I mean, all right, can they do anything? Well, yeah. One of the most important, if not the most important thing that we do all day is examine people and talk to them and figure out where they're coming from and what actually is happening. There's no, well, my back hurts. Okay, good, lay on the table, let's start a treatment plan. There's conversation, there's consultation, there's examination. Sometimes, now this happens, this is very real. Sometimes patients come in and what they have is a red flag medical emergency. And that means that you are in the wrong place. That means that we want to get you to the emergency room. That means we want somebody who's trained for this specific event is going to have to do what they do to save your life. And as it turns out, there are people walking around who are red flag medical emergencies and they don't know it. I mean, it's not their fault. You don't have a hazard light flashing or a neon sign. I mean, we gotta play a couple connect the dots with some symptoms. We got to get some background and some case history. We got to do a few low-tech tests. Maybe that might even mean taking your blood pressure in both arms. It might mean how do you react to gravity if your head is in a certain position. Do you have the ability to track moving fingers with your eyes and keeping your head still? And we got to drill down on some of these places where people are struggling and figure out, are you in the right place? Is this just sort of a weird coincidence? Or are you a red flag medical emergency? And Dr. Ross and I have caught a couple of those. I mean, I don't like it any more than anybody else. I don't want this to happen. But we've caught patients who, like, what you have going on is not a chiropractic case. We want to see you when it's time to see you, but right now we want to figure out how to get you to the appropriate medical specialist, which is probably the emergency room. And if one comes in with a red flag, the chances are very good that we're going to catch it and we're going to find it and we're going to make sure that we behave accordingly. Why would I want to be a chiropractic patient in that place? Well, those guys are not just well trained, but they're pretty good at attention to detail, and they're paying attention to each and every single patient as the individual that they are at that moment in time, not who you were in your chart 6 weeks ago, not who you told me you were over the phone 2 months ago, who you are in that moment in time. It's called present time consciousness, and that is something we have never let go in this particular clinic. Anything from Cyberland, or can I keep rolling? Okay, so what else do we do here? Why would you want to come here and be a patient? Well, we're going to do everything that we can to help you from a hands-on chiropractic perspective. We're going to do everything that we can to help you in terms of recommending the right nutritional supplements to help you accelerate your healing, to help you regain overall systemic health. We talked about health, the ability to recognize, interact with, adapt to, and overcome your environment, both internally and externally. If we're putting good nutritional supplements into your body, we're certainly addressing your internal environment. Now, sometimes that's just simply not enough, and we got to give patients some homework. And that homework comes in the form of low-tech rehab. I believe that the presentation workshop prior to mine was Dr. Ross going over some exercises which are done just through body position and specific body movements that entail no real equipment. Not going to tell you to go. Look, the only way this can work is if you sign up for the gym and you have to get a year membership, and you should probably work with a trainer, and you work with that trainer. It's going to be $65 an hour. You got to see that person 2 times a week. You got to see me 3 times a week. You got to stay with the. No, we don't play those games. We don't play those games at all. I certainly don't want to discourage anyone from going to the gym. I have a number of personal trainers that I think very highly of and like very much. And if you want a recommendation, I'll be happy to give it to you. But that's not contingent on what kind of success that we may have or may not have here. We like low-tech rehab. We like body positioning. We like teaching people how to move in a way that creates either strength or flexibility or stability. That if I bend down to pick up something heavy over here, why don't I just go toppling over to my right, your left, as I bend down to pick up my suitcase? Well, I have forces pulling me. I have stabilizing forces pulling against in the opposite direction that are going to keep me balanced, even if I put myself in an awkward physical position. That's stability. Flexibility is the ability to bend down. So we're working on both with our patients as we roll along. So we talked about earlier about my strategy is I'm looking to help people be deeper, more efficient breathers. If somebody complains about lower back pain, a new patient who comes in and tells me how badly their lower back hurts, first we're going to talk about when did it start hurting, how did we get to this point, what other symptoms might you be experiencing that go along with this, was there a traumatic impact, is this an injury, is this a twist, is this something that's been going on for 15 years and you've tried a number of other things and finally decided to see me? What's the background here? And all along, and then we're gonna do some tests and some movements to see, like, if you do bend down and touch your toes, if you lean back, if you twist from side to side, if you lie on your back and I pick your leg up and push down, does that reproduce your pain? Does that intensify what it is you have going on? And all of these are windows as to, well, one, do you have a red flag medical emergency and the only symptom that you know about is low back pain, but it's really because something internally is torn? We're trying to figure that out. Once we figured out that no, that as bad as this may be, it's not a life or death emergency, you are indeed a chiropractic patient, I'm going to be looking for places throughout the skeleton, probably with a heavy emphasis on the lower back, but I'm going to be looking for places where am I going to apply treatment and which directions am I going to adjust the skeleton into. And I want to make sure that as many of my adjustments as possible are following along the patterns of how does this joint or how does this region of the body supposed to move when you inhale, when you exhale. If there are 5 bones in the lumbar spine, and then there are 2 primary bones in the pelvis on either side, and then there's the sacrum and there's the coccyx. There are certainly not an infinite number of adjustments that can be done in that region of the body, but there's certainly an exponential number of adjustments and combinations that can be done in that region of the body. Why not make those adjustments on the planes that reinforce good breathing? So we talk about how important breathing is. We have talked about low-tech rehab. Let's combine the two and let's do some deep breathing exercises together. So what I would like everybody to do, please, is to sit up as straight and tall as they can, and we're going to impress your chiropractor with your good posture, and we're going to think about the region of our body that lives between our belt buckle and the bottom of our chest. In this area of our abdomen, we're going to make that as tall as we possibly can, as long as we can get in this area, but we're going to do it in such a way that we're not shrugging our shoulders up to our ears. Instead, we're throwing our shoulders backwards. So this is becoming long and prominent, and our shoulders go back. Now that we're in this position, what I want you to do is take a big, deep breath in through your nose and feel your torso expanding. We're inhaling, and we're going to hold for 1,001, 1,002, 1,000, and blow out through your mouths. Let's do another one. Big, deep breath in through your nose. Long in our abdomen. Shoulders are back. Torso is expanding like a balloon being blown up. We're going to hold that for just a split second longer. And now we're going to blow out through our mouths. One last time. Big, deep breath in through your nose. Holding. Hold it some more. Hold it again. Hold for one more. And blow out through your mouths. Okay. Anybody notice a tightness between their shoulder blades when they were doing this drill? Anybody notice any lightheadedness when they were doing this drill? Okay. Anybody notice a calm coming over them as they do this drill? Anybody in Cyberland weighing in? All right, so we have quiet on the Cyberland front. So why would somebody feel tightness between their shoulder blades with this deep breath? Well, here's a real self-serving statement. Let me get a chance to look with my hands. Let's figure this out. Maybe there's some spots in your rib cage or your thoracic spine that should be adjusted that are not moving properly as you breathe. Maybe some of those very small intercostal muscles, maybe the muscles that surround your shoulder blades are chock full of trigger points that we can work out from a hands-on mechanical chiropractic perspective. Why would somebody get lightheaded while they're taking a couple of deep breaths? Well, probably oxygen starved. You're probably a very shallow breather by nature. Now, all of a sudden, you're force feeding your body more oxygen per breath than what it's used to, and your body and your brain are a little bit out of sync with this. And it's like, well, what would happen if I lifted something heavy? I would feel maybe a lightheaded strain. What would happen if I ran a distance that was beyond what I was used to? One of the things that would happen, one of the results would be some lightheadedness. So we're doing an exercise here that you're simply just not used to doing, and that's a sign that you could stand to do this a little bit more. So let's make it homework. If you experience a little bit of lightheadedness with these couple, 3 deep breaths, why don't you think about taking a couple, 3 deep breaths just like this? We're going to go long in our abdomen. Shoulders get thrown back, heads up. I'm inhaling through my nose. Everything is expanding. I'm blowing out through my mouth as I compress back in, rinse and repeat. Let's do that 3 to 5 times in a row, minimum of 3 times a day. All of a sudden, your body is going to be like, I'm thirsty for this oxygen. I want this delicious oxygen. This is what I've been missing, and that lightheadedness is going to disappear. So far, so good. Questions, comments, moral outrages. All right. So that's the kind of rehab exercise that I like to assign for my patients. Somebody says, well, I have terrible shoulder pain, and you did all these manipulations and adjustments and muscle work to my upper back and to my neck and to my shoulder, and we did some stretching, and said, what exercises should I do? And we're starting with breathing exercises. Well, yeah, exactly. We are priming your body for a speedy recovery. We are trying to reinforce the way your body and your brain talk to each other. The brain is the most oxygen-dependent structure in your body, the most important anatomical part, oxygen-dependent-wise. And we're looking at the shoulder pain is, yeah, we're going to get to a point where we're going to rehab the shoulder, and we're going to have you do things to stretch it or strengthen it or stabilize it. And by the time we get to that point, your body is going to be so primed to heal that it's going to happen in the blink of an eye, not in the weeks or even months that the textbook said it's supposed to take for this type of injury. So that is the low-tech exercise example. And I know that Dr. Ross has done quite a bit a workshop ago. Why else would you want to be a chiropractic patient in this place? I've had a strange phenomenon recently. More and more people have been asking me about the vagus nerve. How can I stimulate my vagus nerve? Well, I don't know where this came from. I'll bet somebody put together, I'll bet some Instagram or Facebook or a Facebook YouTuber, influencer, low-level celebrity started talking about the vagus nerve, and it just went exponential. I don't know where this came from, but it was like all of a sudden, out of the woodwork, I'm getting calls from people who I don't know, who they say, no, I'm looking for a chiropractor who does techniques to stimulate the vagus nerve. That's odd. And don't you know, but there are half a dozen other people who are, maybe they're existing patients, they're callers, they're contacting me through social media out of the blue. Okay, so first of all, the vagus nerve. We have 12 what are called cranial nerves. They come off of the brain and travel down somewhere else into the brain or down into the body, but they don't come off the spinal cord, they come off of the brain, and they're called cranial nerves. So we have 12 on the right side and 12 on the left side, and each one has a very highly specific function. So vagus, the word vagus means wanderer. If you remember your Greek or Latin, which obviously I don't because I don't even remember what language it came from, but vagus is associated with wandering. And the vagus nerve comes down through your skull and travels down into your torso, where it supplies what's called parasympathetic innervation to your heart and your lungs and your upper thoracic viscera. So what does parasympathetic mean? Why would I want parasympathetic innervation? Well, if you think about activity, if I ask you to raise your arm and wave goodbye, you guys all understand the language. You know what that means. I asked you to do something. It sounded reasonable, so you did it. Bye. Okay. That's voluntary activity. Now, we also have non-voluntary activity. If I said, okay, everybody, I want you to dilate your eyeballs now, or dilate your pupils now it's a little more complicated. Just because I want to doesn't mean I can. I need some sort of external, there we go, we're externally, somebody's in hiding here, all right? But okay, that's excellent. But that's an external stimulus. You needed to change your relationship to the light in the environment to get your pupils to dilate and to constrict, right? If we get out a flashlight and shine them in somebody's eye, we're going to see a change in their pupil size, right? If we put them in the dark, they're going to have a change in their pupil. This is why this person covered her eyes. She's on the ball. But it didn't happen because you just wanted it to happen and you thought about it, and just I'm sitting here concentrating and my pupils dilated and constricted. It happened because we're using some sort of external stimulus. That is part of the non-voluntary autonomic nervous system. So when we talk about non-voluntary nervous system in the autonomics, what happens? We can go into two categories. One is our sympathetic nervous system. That's our fight or flight. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm driving down a one-way street on my way to work, and I see a car coming towards me who's clearly going the wrong way on one of those narrow south side one-way streets. I could have had this fight or flight moment, but it was not enough stimulus for me to go sympathetic. I remained parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is you're wine or dine or relaxed. I'm relaxed. I see this car coming towards me in a direction coming where it shouldn't be coming from. Disaster could be imminent, but I'm not bent out of shape about this. I'm just going to drift over a little bit. It's going to be a tight squeeze, but we're all going to have room to pass each other, no problem. Relaxed, rest and digest, parasympathetic. So our vagus nerve makes our heart rate and our breathing rate go parasympathetic, calm down. So patients and prospective patients say, what are you going to, can you stimulate my vagus nerve with chiropractic adjustment? The answer is yes, absolutely. Chiropractic adjustments do many, many things in the human body. Chief amongst them is that they stimulate the nervous system so that the nervous system itself talks to the brain, which is at the very top, the head of the nervous system. And when you make an adjustment, you're going to send messages into the central nervous system, that's the brain and spinal cord, that say just relax. We're going to stimulate the areas of the brain that would lead to a parasympathetic response, and we're going to stimulate the areas of the brain that inhibit sympathetic activity. So yeah, why would I want to be a chiropractic patient? Well, good chiropractic adjusting leads to a more parasympathetic state, a less sympathetic state. Remember, that sympathetic is fight or flight. I'm wound pretty tight. That on my way to the jungle, but the lion jumped out early and he scares me. Now I'm wound up. I'm in a fight or flight mode. I'd like to be out of that. I want to be in my wine, dine, rest and digest. I'm calm, cool, collected. And if a car comes down the wrong way, the one-way street at me, I'm not headed towards a head-on collision. I know how to adapt to this. Parasympathetic to the heart, keeping your heart rate down, vagus nerve. Why would I want to be a chiropractic patient? That's what you get with a chiropractic adjustment. So far, so good? Questions, comments, moral outrages? Cyberland, still good. Okay. Why else would I want to be a chiropractic adjustment? Or a chiropractic patient? Why would I want to get a chiropractic adjustment? Well, we talk about posture. I think everybody wants to be a little bit taller and stand up straighter. And if you're gonna present yourself to the world and you want to look like an authority figure, or you want to look like a force to be reckoned with, or you want people to take note of you, it's going to be because you're standing up straight in good posture, and certainly not because you're down here hiding inside of yourself. Agreed? I hope so. So when you are adjusted, think about posture as a reflex. How do I adapt to my environment? The more flexible, the more flexibility combined with stability your spine and your skeleton will be, the more these reflexes are turned on to open up your chest, to allow yourself to breathe deeper, to be able to pick your head up higher, the better your posture is going to become. So we see this every single day. I can't say every single patient, but I can certainly say most patients, they actually acknowledge how they feel like they've grown, or they're taller. I feel myself standing up straighter. I literally feel my posture more upright after they've been adjusted. Well, I have a head nodding, and then somebody gave me a thumbs up, and you keep that up, I'll put you on payroll to endorse what I'm doing here. But anyhow, why would I want to be a chiropractic patient? Well, your posture is going to improve. Why else would you want to come here to be a chiropractic patient? Well, the overwhelming majority of the people I see who show up on day one, I'm still waiting for somebody to come in and say, so, Mr. New Patient, Miss New Patient, what brings you in? What can I do for you? And they're going to say, well, Orbach, I heard your workshop, and I just think you're hilarious, and I just wanted to sit down and have a conversation with you, and just, you know, somebody said you were very sarcastic, and somebody else said you were really funny, and I like that, and I want to chat. I'm still waiting for that day. I am not holding my breath, but I'm hoping that day will come. People come in to see me and my colleague, Dr. Ross, because they're in pain. All of our patients come in and they say, fill in the blank. We treat spinal complaints, we treat headaches, we treat ankle sprains, we treat knee twists, you name it. Like if somebody has a physical ache and pain, we've treated it here at some point or another, and we'll treat it again with somebody else. So what brings you in? Pain brought me in. Now here's what pain is. Pain is a warning sign. Pain is a hazard light flashing, telling you that there's something physically wrong, and it is so wrong that you're going to have to take measures to correct it. Now look, for some people that measure is running off to the emergency room. And I just got done telling you, there is such thing as a medical emergency. There is such thing as a red flag. When we find it, I think the emergency room is the best place for the person to go. Sometimes people go running for their medicine cabinet and they're like, thank God I have all of these prescription strength, codeine-laced, God only knows what they are, Tylenol that I was prescribed in 2004, and for some reason I didn't finish them, and they might be 20 years old, but I still have them in my cupboard. I wonder if they're still good. Let's find out. I'm going to take them. For other people, my kind of people, they're in pain, discomfort. So you know what? I want to go see my chiropractor. So our new patient population comes in because they're in pain. Pain is that hazard light to say that my body and my brain are miscommunicating with one another, and there's a chance that I sprained my ankle, and the body tissue surrounding my ankle and my cuboid bone and its related joints and my deltoid ligament and my talus bone and my peroneus longus muscle. No test on the names. These are just anatomical parts that go along with sprained ankles. There's dysfunction there. And these muscles, ligaments, joints are so dysfunctional, they're sending messages into my nervous system. My brain is interpreting those nervous system signaling as to experience pain in the ankle. I have to do something about it. So what are we going to do here? We're going to reset the mechanics of the peroneus longus muscle and the deltoid ligament. We're going to make adjustments to the cuboid bone, and we're going to make adjustments to the talus bone, and we're going to change the way that body tissue is sending messages into the brain. But we're going to make other treatment modalities. We're going to do stretching and trigger point and adjustments in the other parts of the body that help to co-intercept those negative messages and change the messaging that the brain is receiving. So why would I want to be a chiropractic patient? I want my chiropractor to use techniques that are appropriate in the areas that are injured and techniques in other areas of the body that are completely different, seemingly unrelated to the injury, and yet have everything to do with changing the way the original spot is talking to the brain and how the brain is receiving those messages. So far, so good? Questions, comments, moral outrages? Cyberland, still thumbs up. I don't know how to take this. I mean, I'm not getting a lot of feedback, so I'm either really doing a good job of clarifying myself and making good points and keeping everybody on the edge of their chair with eager anticipation or excitement, or I've lost all of you so badly that you've given up. I'll go with the former. All right. Why else would you want to be a chiropractic patient here? Well, let's talk about nutrition very quickly. I know that there are some very, very talented nutritional reps and nutritionists who know far more about this than I do, who make presentations this week, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but we have a very, very well-stocked nutrition store, and for the conditions that I treat and for the conditions that Dr. Ross treats, like, we know how to handle those nutritionally. That if one comes in here because they're suffering or challenged with, for example, a liver toxicity issue, I know enough to get you started, but I'm not the person you really want to see for that. You really want to see one of the nutritionists that we have working here in-house or that we refer out to. But if you come here with a sprained ankle, I can help you put together a very concise, effective, and economic nutrition plan that's going to help to reinforce what we're doing mechanically to accelerate your healing. Likewise, Dr. Ross, he's very well versed on neuromusculoskeletal nutrition. Why else? Why would you want to be a patient here? What else? Well, we're very sympathetic and empathetic people. There's no maneuver that I do that I did not learn by not first experiencing it from my perspective as a patient. Let your imagination wander for a second. How painful do you think it is to be treated for a dislocated shoulder that you don't have? Well, you think it would be fair for me to treat somebody who has a dislocated shoulder if I didn't know what it felt like to be treated? Oh, believe me, it hurts a lot more to be treated for an injury that you don't have than for one that you do have. Some of those maneuvers, Doc, is this going to hurt? Like, well, it's not going to be pleasant, and it's going to hurt for us. You know that 4 seconds that feels like a lifetime? It's probably going to sting like that. Well, if you don't have a dislocated shoulder, but somebody's trying to relocate it for you, it hurts for a lot longer than that. I'm here to tell you, believe me, I'm very sympathetic to my patients, and I'm empathetic to what they're going through. And that doesn't even begin to tell you about all the sports injuries that I've personally had by knocking my body around when I was a much younger man. Okay, so besides being sympathetic and empathetic, we're like a calming force and a voice of reason. If somebody has a red flag medical emergency, and I cannot emphasize this enough, I cannot mention it enough during this workshop or when I'm interacting with the public, when I'm interacting with my patients, if there is a life-threatening problem, I want to get you to the people who save lives as quickly as possible. If you do not have a life-threatening problem, let's approach this in a calm, cool, and collected way, in a systematic approach where maybe it really hurts and that's the biggest thing on your radar screen, but we're not only going to be able to help you with this, but we're going to help you with it so that long-term future chronic reoccurrences is kept to a minimum. We're please don't bring me a disc with your MRI on it. Please don't. I see 2 MRIs a year. The radiologist sees 15 before morning coffee. Let's let the experts stay in their field of expertise. Please don't expect me to read your MRI and have insights that the radiologist may have missed. I'm dependent on that person. But what Dr. Ross and I both do very well is we will look at the MRI report and we'll help you translate it into English and help you better understand your condition. In the last, if it was in the last month, I had a patient who was, their orthopedic doctor had examined them and performed an MRI, and the radiologist read it, and the orthopedic doctor said, this is an emergency. You have to have cervical surgery as soon as possible. And they scheduled the patient out for this surgery about 6 weeks down the road. All right, let me ask you this. If it's an emergency and this really has to be done, why are we waiting 6 weeks? I mean, does that sound like an emergency to you? Emergency sounds to me sounds like, let's call the ambulance and rush you in immediately. Right? I mean, am I out of line here? So this person says to me, well, but the doctor said if I was in an accident, it could be a real disaster and I might be paralyzed. That's a good point. That's a really good point. And you know what? If I don't have the wherewithal to recognize this car coming the wrong way down the one-way street, I could be in an accident too. You could be paralyzed. You. Any one of us could be paralyzed by an accident. Like your doctor's not signaling you out. And I'm reading this report, and it's like what I'm seeing is when I'm reading this, I'm seeing a lot of gray hair for the spine. That you have this MRI, and it has a lot of language expressing one type of arthritis, expressing another type of arthritis, and there's a problem here and a problem there, and it all translates to gray hair for the spine. And you would be hard-pressed, very hard-pressed, to find yourself somebody who's, let's say mid-40s and up, who doesn't have similar findings on their MRI. So this person is scheduled for 6 weeks out of surgery. And I said, look, I'm not making this decision for you. This is a medical decision. This is a decision that you make with your wife, with your kids, with your family. But I want you to do this for me. I want you, and I gave him one exercise. I said, I want you to do this exercise 10 times an hour. And we'll talk further. And he calls me up the next day full of piss and vinegar, and like, I did that exercise you told me, and I can't believe how badly my neck hurts now. And I'm thinking to myself, good, that means you're compliant. That means you did what I told you to do. And I said, well, let me ask you this. If it snowed really hard and you had to shovel 7 inches of snow off your walkway on day 1 of the winter, and you haven't shoveled snow in 325 days, what do you think your body is going to feel like? Like you did this exercise so intensely and so vigorously, and now you're sore immediately after. Do the exercises again tomorrow. And I was like I'm like, I wasn't real sympathetic for a moment in time. I was more like, do as I say or else, right? So he does the exercise the next day and the next day and calls me up and says, I really feel better. My neck's not bothering me as much. I'm like, I don't have a crystal ball, but this was low-hanging fruit, right? So I said, you know what I'd really like you to do? I'd like you to get a second opinion from a different orthopedist. Now, as it happens, I know a few orthopedists. So I said, I'd like you to schedule with such and such a person and let them have a look at you and see what they think. So the patient goes to talk to the next orthopedist, and the next person says, yeah, there's no denying. I mean, there's certainly some arthritis build up in your neck, but I don't know what this person was thinking scheduling you for surgery so soon out. Let's keep an eye on it and let's see where you are a year from now. So guess who canceled his surgery? Yay, victory for the chiropractor, right? And that's what Dr. Ross and I do, is we're not going to tell you, look, if a patient has a situation where, like, we're talking red flag emergency, you got to go for surgery. You have to have this stitched together. You have to have hardware installed. This needs to be artificially stabilized. We're going to tell you so. I don't like it, but we're going to tell you so. But if you have gray hair for your spine and somebody's kind of pushing you in a direction, they're like, I don't really think you should go. I'm going to tell you, I think you should see other people. I think you should try this. I think you should try that. Get a better idea of where you stand, and then make your own decision as to what's appropriate and what's not. So the voice of just being calm, let's install some calm and some rational to just take a giant step backwards and look at this situation from a wide-angle view. That's what Dr. Ross and I do here. This is why would I want to come? I want that wide-angle view applied to my own personal health care. I don't want to pigeonholed into an emergency that doesn't exist. We do the same thing with blood chemistry. Somebody brings me their blood chemistry report. Look, I spend a long time poring over these, doing correlations. Don't give me your blood chemistry report and expect me to give you an answer 10 minutes later. I mean, usually in the workshops, somebody hands me a blood chemistry report in the nutritional store, and they're like, what should I take? It's a good question, but I'm going to need some real quality time to look over your paperwork. You're going to have to leave this with me and give me some homework. Please don't shove it down my face and expect answers now. But Dr. Ross and I both do that. We look at these blood chemistry reports, and we apply a different metric, and we correlate. Well, if A is high, I would reasonably expect B to be low as a counterbalance. Oh, good, this is what it's supposed to be. But what if A is high and B is high? Now let's look, what could that possibly mean? Let's look into this. So when you see your blood chemistry report and everything is in range or out of range, you can't accept that as like that's what it is. I mean, we gotta correlate different values for different tests. So why would I want to be a chiropractic patient at that place? Well, those guys, their attention to detail is applied to my body, my narrative, the data that we've been able to generate from internal imaging, the data we've been able to generate from chemistry reports like blood. These guys are really good at attention to detail. So I think those are some pretty good reasons to come and be a patient here. And as I look out at the crowd, and as I hope I know who's tuning in from Cyberland. I know somebody in Bangkok who's listening in who's not a patient, probably never will be, but we're happy to have you. And I hope you take the things that I say to heart, and I hope you all do your deep breathing exercises. And for those of you here who are listening in and visiting, who are on the fence or maybe dipping your toes into the pond, wondering whether or not this is for you, I hope you decide that it is. Thank you all so much for your kind attention, for participating, for being good sports, for being here. Thank you so much.